Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Woodstock, Georgia. Welcome to Women in Business, where we celebrate influential women making a difference in our community. Now, here's your host.
Hello, this is Lori Kennedy, and I'm your host today for Women in Business, powered by Business RadioX. Stone Payton, our producer, is also in the studio with us today. We're grateful to have you tuned in with us, and today we are interviewing Courtney Schutter. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And Tammy Lewis. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to ask each one of them to tell us about what they do and, just their businesses and why they're here. So I'm going to start with you, Courtney. Courtney, tell us what you do and how that plays out into your life and the community and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So I am an ADHD life coach. So what I do is I help specifically parents with organization, feeling overwhelmed, and we talk about the obstacles that are preventing them from getting to their goals, and we find ways to get over those obstacles.
Okay, so when you say parents, do you mean helping parents that have children with ADHD, or do you mean helping parents or adults who have ADHD, or both?
I can do both, but my passion is parents who are ADHD, because that's my story. So That's why I got into this. Yeah.
Well, I'm a parent who is ADHD without children in the home. Does that still count?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I might need help.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. And do you have a name for your business, or do you operate on your own, or how does that work?
Yes. So it's ADHD Parent LLC.
Ah, okay. Yes. Great. All right. Awesome. Tammy.
Hey.
Hi.
How are
Tell
you?
us about what you do and how I know you have several things that you're passionate about, so I want to hear about all of them.
Okay. Well, thank you again for having me here. This is so awesome and a great opportunity just, to meet other women and learn more about women in business. So my journey has definitely changed. I was in corporate America for a while in the pharmaceutical industry, and I totally did a 360. So I'm actually in finance now, which has nothing to do with health or selling illegal pharmaceuticals. But but I did a total 360 in finance. I partner with my husband in our business, where we really do focus on helping people get on the right side of wealth, with people at work and with money at work as well. And life changes, and I'm pretty sure I'll talk a little bit more about it, but I'm also a breast cancer survivor. So I started a nonprofit called Pink Pearl Hero literally a week before my major surgery. And it was because I didn't see women who look like me talking about breast cancer. And African American women die at a higher rate.
Oh, wow.
From it. So I was just like, why, I was like, well, somebody needs to talk about it. And I'm like, well, why not you? Because your background is health education. And then from that, which is not ironic, I always think things happen for a reason, is I co-created a digital planner called One Dope Planner. It's a digital organization planning experience. Pretty dope. But my partner actually has been diagnosed with ADHD. So it's, again, I always say it's divine that when you're around certain people, with, places that you go. So that's me. So I've turned into a trilogy. I'm trying to figure out how to really say that, but, just from life, those are the three passions of mine.
Okay, I'm going to delve into each of those just a tad.
Yes.
First of all, I want to know more about this dope planner. How do you get it? What type of device do you need to use it on? Give me some details there. If I wanted to do this and be part of this, how do I join you in this?
So, right now it's just available on Instagram. So there's a link where you can purchase it through Instagram. You do need a tablet, and you do need, iPads or any type of PDF, tablet. You do need a pen, because it works better with a stylus. So, because people have asked me, well, can I just, purchase it and how does it work? And you do need to have certain software, but all that is laid out in, like, if you go check like the Instagram post on there. So we'll be having more people, because I don't have time to do it, but we'll be having more people kind of show how they use it, just in their everyday lives. So, and that actually came into play because when I was going through all my surgeries, I couldn't carry anything over 10 pounds because I was like the Levenger junkie. Like I had the top of the line Levengers because I always like to plan and organize. But when the surgery started to happen, my plastic surgeon said, you can't carry anything over 10 pounds. And I said, well, I got to figure this out because I still have a business that we're running, so I cannot not be organized. And so I learned, digital planning fell into my lap. It was a divine digital planning. And I just started creating them. And it actually kept me busy during that process too. So my mind was on that and not on where I currently was when I was going through that process.
That's awesome. I do. It seems to me like the more life I do, the more I realize that sometimes the hardest or the most difficult moments in our life are where things grow and bloom that take us to the next place,
Correct.
And so the fact that you say that this planner came as a result of something that was, a tragedy in your life and has turned it into a triumph. And that's awesome. And I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, tell me a little about your story, Courtney, as far as like what led you to this place for such a time as this.
Yes. So good things come out of tragedies sometimes. Yeah. So I was let go from my insurance job. I was also in the insurance industry for 10 years. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I was a little bit panicked. I have a 4-year-old. It's just me and him. And I had just been diagnosed with ADHD the summer before that. And, I was hyper-focusing. That's what ADHD people are really good at. And so I was hyper-focusing and looking up all these things with ADHD. And I saw that there are ADHD life coaches. And I thought, well, what is that? I didn't even know. I never even thought of a life coach, to be honest with you. And I looked into it, and it was one of those a little bit impulsive ADHD things where I was like, oh, yes, that's what I'm going to do. Shiny object. Let's do it. And so I paid for the classes, and just going through the certification process has made me learn so much about me, how I function. It's been amazing. And it also explains a lot about like childhood, because I was one of those ones where I was okay in school. I got, talks too much on my report card, every time they came out. But, my mom loves to tell this story that in high school, she was a teacher. She retired math teacher. And I was not doing well. And she held a parent-teacher conference. She was like, we need to talk. This is not acceptable. And every single one of my teachers was like, oh, but she's so sweet and she's working so hard and it's okay. And my mom is sitting there like, no, it's not okay. She's getting D's. And, it's so, and we didn't know at the time that there was anything going on in my brain. It was just, I was struggling and we didn't know. I'm 35 years old. Back then, you didn't really, it's rare. It did happen, but women really did not get diagnosed with ADHD. And it's still very rare. And we have to fight a lot harder to get our diagnosis. I actually had to convince my doctor I said, listen, I've taken all these tests. I've talked to all my friends who know things. I need you to, what do we need to do to try this? Because I think this is what I have. Because before I was diagnosed, anxiety and depression. And I thought, I'm not really depressed. I'm just really tired all the time. So, so being let go from my job, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and then just jumping in and finding my passion. But I also have a degree in psychology. That was my undergrad. So in insurance, I worked in claims. So I always kind of said, I use my degree because I'm calming them down. I'm making them feel better when they're stressed out because they just got in a car accident.
Right.
But now I really am going back to my roots, and it's been awesome. It's been an awesome ride.
That is awesome. I love that. So tell me what hyperfocus means. Like, I just want to understand, or I want everybody who's listening, plus me, to understand what that means. Exactly.
Yes. So when a typical person, we call the word is neurotypical. So if you don't have ADHD, autism, those things, you are neurotypical. Neurodivergent is autism, ADHD, etc. So neurotypical people get excited about stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is great. Let me read about this for about an hour," and they learn some things, and it's great. Neurodivergent people are like, "Oh, that's so cool." 5 months later, they know everything about that subject because they have just completely consumed their day to day because they have to know everything about it. And that's what happened after I got my ADHD diagnosis. One, I realized that I have always been doing that. But two, that's what allowed me to really learn all these things about ADHD and find out what I really wanted to do with that. But yes, we just take everything to a little bit of an extreme.
Okay. Well, I want to explore this more with you later, one-on-one and personally.
Yes.
Tammy, tell us about the financial or wealth building part of what you're doing. And I would love for you to mention some of your social media things that you have happening around that as well.
Yeah. So what I realized, and this actually came more into play during the whole breast cancer journey, is I started reading. When you said that, I'm like, ooh, that's me.
Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I was like, self-diagnosis. But
it happens.
I started reading more about why women don't have the wealth that we should have. And a lot of it is because we're trying to win a game and we don't understand like where we are on the board, and we're playing from behind. Because women actually make 80 cents for every dollar that a man makes. I mean, it's not our rules. It's just what it is. And so if you're playing a game, you got to know what the rules are. And I think women know that, but they don't know the dollar. And when you look at it by race, I mean, the separation happens even more. So I'm like, okay, so we're all trying to win this game of, wealth, but we're all playing from behind and we're not using the right tools. So one of the things that I share is like when I went through my breast cancer journey is, I had certain things in place. So, I talk about how I had life insurance in place. Nobody wants to think about death, but I actually had to because, we didn't know what was going on, and I told my husband, I said, well, worst case scenario, the kids' financial future is set because we put those plans in place. And outside of, what, benefits that you get in a corporate job. And then, just teaching people about investments. So, I'll, take time and do workshops on that or just one-on-one just to put a plan in place because I had money making money for me while I was going through all the surgeries. But, in entrepreneurship, because we had a business that had passive income, I didn't have to work. And, I tell people when you have options, you heal differently because, when you're going through like chemo and radiation, you only got one or two options. You're either working because you have to, because you got to have benefits and keep money coming in, or you can't work at all because the side effects are too bad. But when you got options, you just heal differently. And so
I would assume that the stress of having to have a full-time position while you are going through something like that would just make it even harder. Yes, right. Harder to heal from because now you're adding stress to it as well.
Right. And I just was talking to actually one of my sorority sisters who's also a breast cancer survivor who actually went to see my plastic surgeon for some reconstruction. And she said, yeah, he said it again. He said, you were just an anomaly, the way that you healed. And because everything I did was intentional, but I think I could be more intentional about it because I didn't have all these other stressors that most women, have going through that process. So that's, and one of my girlfriends who was one of my partners in pharmaceuticals, she said, so you know what this means, right? So this means that you can tell your story from you living through it and the things that you had in place. And, having your business that you can talk to other women about. This is how you have, multiple sources of income. This is how you get your, finances in order. And, just talk to them through what you live through at the same time.
Yeah, I love how all the pieces, like I'm trying to get you to tell me about one thing, but it always flows right into the next. It's like
Right.
your whole life is all so interconnected. You don't have like this space for this and this space for this. It's all together because you do have this Women of Wealth
Yes.
social media. And then you also, with the breast cancer thing, I want you to tell me about these boxes or something that you were talking about in reference to that. I want to hear more about that. So tell me about those two things.
So the Women of Wealth, like I started like a private group just so we can just start having wealth conversations. And, most people think I'm just talking about finance. No, health is wealth. Mindset is wealth, because if you have a bad mindset, then, you're not making any money because you're just kind of like all over the place. And so bringing a platform where we can have safe conversations about that. And again, going through the breast cancer, I was like, okay, so I really need to do something with this. And when I was in the Woodstock Business Club for like the first time I was there, it was actually last March. And actually Giselle came up to me and she said, I wanted to introduce myself. Here, I invited actually this person and this person. So we kind of went down the list, and she said, and there's probably 7 other women in this room who know who you are, but you don't know who they are.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I said, okay, so this thing is really getting big. So it's an opportunity, number one, to have wealth conversations on health, mindset, and wealth. But also what it's turned into is I want it to be a platform for other women who are entrepreneurs to showcase their business.
Yeah, that's awesome.
At the same time. So we're working on what we're actually going to do with it. So I've talked to some other women and just some of the relationships that I've had with other women, and not just here, but it's also like I went back and looked at the analytics because I'm a little analytical. And we have women from Atlanta, like all areas of Atlanta, and in Nashville, in St. Louis, in Houston, in Dallas, parts of Jersey, New York. We got people in Boise, Idaho. It's just, but it's that, 6 feet of separation that has happened. Yeah. And it's like its own like growing organism. So
how many members of this social media?
So right now, when I last counted, we're right at 1,300, getting ready to tip over to 14. And that's only because it's private. Now, so like I know as soon as we release it, it's just going to turn into its own beast. So I just want to make sure a couple things are in place before we do that. So we're really supporting women in that process, not just kind of being another women's group.
Yeah. No, I love the strategy behind that. So tell me about these boxes that we had talked about at one point in time. I want everybody to hear what you want to do. So
when I was, when we started the Pink Pearl Hero, it was like, so what are we going to do? Because I have some girlfriends who, like Valita's Hope, one of my girlfriends in St. Louis, she does recliners for women who have double mastectomies. I would have never thought of that until I went through it. And it was like my savings grace. It was like my bed from October to the next May because of just the type of surgery. So what I decided was, a couple of girlfriends of mine in St. Louis would send me a box once a month. And I always look forward to the box. It had funny things in it. It had tea. It had mask in it. It had like gift cards to Panera, Starbucks, T-shirts, all that stuff. And I said, well, what am I going to do, or what are we going to do to give back? So I decided, let's do this hero box, because that was one of the things that I always look forward to. And that's a way that someone can support another breast cancer survivor, even if they're not in the same city as them. So the hero box, and so I took it a step further because, big on supporting women in their businesses, is let's put contents of the box only from women's businesses so we can support other women in their businesses. So that's what we're in the process of doing. And I've met some phenomenal women in the journey of doing that. And even from things, because we even talked about, little things about getting, oil change or car repair. I mean, it may sound like, okay, why would you put that in the box? I'm like, because the car still has to be repaired even when you're going, through that process. And there are so many women. And I think that's the only thing that keeps me talking about my journey, is because there's so many women who go through this alone. And, and even some of my friends, they're like, yeah, they have family members who don't know they had breast cancer. Wow. Because that's just their choice. And I respect their choice. And so for me, I'm just like, well, I'll just be your voice now.
Yeah, so, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. So Courtney, I want to hear about how people are able to know about what you do and how they find you. Like, how does somebody come across? How would I have come across?
Where am I? Yeah.
I found you on social media,
right?
But it just was kind of by accident.
Which I'm so happy for.
Yes, I am too. And I can't wait for us to
I'm a little obsessed with Tammy, though, I have to admit.
She's awesome. Yeah, Tammy is awesome.
I'm like, can we just ask her more questions?
No, we want to hear from you too.
I know.
Because I'm over here self-diagnosing.
Right?
Yes. Well, no. So I am most active on Instagram. So my Instagram is connected to my Facebook page. So it's ADHD Parent 86 on Instagram, and that's where I go live. I post a lot. I repost. A lot of people who are self-diagnosing themselves as ADHD, they get it from TikTok, which is fantastic. There's a lot of good information out there, but there is a lot of not correct information out there. So I just would encourage everyone to just do their own research, love the TikTok videos, love the Instagram even. But yeah, and then go and my favorite place that I go for a lot of my information is called Attitude Magazine. It's ADD-itude.
Oh, that's cool.
And so they have all these experts and a lot of different information about what ADHD is, what it is not. But yes, where you can find me is mostly on Instagram. That's where I just talk, usually to myself. It's fine. I love it. Actually, I go live and no one's there. I'm just like, well, I'm just going to pretend I'm talking to you guys. And I just, and usually some people will watch it afterwards and comment, but, and then I have I have two websites. So CourtneySchutter.com is my just official coaching. That's all it is coaching. And then ADHD-parent.com is my blog. But in true ADHD fashion, I have 3 posts on my blog because I was so excited to become a blogger. And then it was like, oh, wait, this is boring. I don't want to do this. So I do want to get more into it. But again, I'm a baby business. I just started even thinking about this in May.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Well, is this something that can be connected to psychology or could you be on some sort of insurance type of thing where somebody could get?
So insurance, no, it's not. It's not covered on insurance, and it's not like therapy, counseling. But I do work with a lot of other coaches, and you can go and buy regular advertising, things like that. Okay. The main body that kind of looks over all of life coaching is called the International Coaching Federation. So they're the ones that are making sure that everyone's kind of doing coaching in a similar manner.
Okay.
But yeah, all of it you have to pay to get your name on there. And again, I'm a baby business. So
yeah. I just didn't know how all that worked because it sounds like it should be something that is part of counseling or something of that nature.
100%. And I always encourage people, coaching is not therapy. So what I'll do is either I'll have a conversation with somebody and I'll realize they may be better suited for therapy. Because therapy, I think a lot is dealing with past traumas, talking about the past, figuring out how to maybe get over those types of things. Coaching is all about the future. It's here's where I am and here's where I want to be. How do I get there? And people just get stuck. I mean, I just talked to somebody yesterday that they had this great idea to fix a problem that they had, but they have no idea how to implement that fix. They're like, I know this will work for me, but I cannot bring myself to actually do it. And it was like, okay, we can work on that. We can get there. It's very similar to like you hire a fitness coach. You're like, okay, I'm here in my weight or my fitness level, and I want to be here, but I cannot do it on my own. So can you get me there?
Yeah.
And that's what a life coach does, especially with people with ADHD. I think we tend to get stuck more often because we have a lot of stuff going on and, a lot of ideas, a lot of shiny new objects that we get so excited about. And it's so hard to rein it in and think, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on today. Even I do. I mean, I have all the tools of a coach. I know what I'm doing, and I still struggle with it sometimes. So it's a work in process always.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question is, I want to know who's in your household. So let's start with you, Courtney.
I have my son, who is 4, and 2 dogs and a cat.
Oh,
yes. It is. I just moved my office upstairs to my bedroom because where my house sits, the sun only hits one side of my house, and I have to have that sunshine. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm just like, oh, it's nap time? Okay, let's do that.
All day long.
Even on medication, I'm just like, no, I can take a nap. That's fine. So, yes, but my dogs they're little 10-pound dogs, and they bark at everything. So
I have little ones, too. What kind are yours?
Bichon and a Havanese.
Okay, I have Pomeranians.
Oh.
And they bark at everything, too.
Yes. Yappies. My next dog will be a German Shepherd.
German Shepherds are beautiful dogs.
They're my favorite, yes.
Well, Tammy, who is in your house?
Well, so we're going through transition because, so my oldest is in college in Nashville, and my youngest is graduating. She's a senior, and so she'll be leaving the nest. So we'll be empty nesters. And so I'm like, everybody's like, are you excited? I'm like, actually, I'm not, because I'm so, it's always been them. And of course, I'm sorry, my husband too.
Oh, yeah.
The other kid, the big kid, right? And we do have a little dog. We have it's a Yorkie Shih Tzu, Shorkie Zoo, which that breed has got, detachment issues, I think, for some reason. But which we've been informed from my older daughter that as soon as she gets her apartment in Nashville, she's taking the dog too. So I was like, okay. So, so Lauren, our youngest, will be going to SCAD in the fall, but she's going to be in Atlanta on campus there. So that's who's in the house, kind of in the house, but we'll be empty nesters.
So why don't you tell me, Tammy, about a mistake that you made in your business and what you learned from it?
Oh, I think I've made a lot of mistakes. I think one of the biggest mistakes always has to do with people. And, in any business, I think especially when you have people that work with you, it's really not like listening. Like you kind of hear them, but like really listening to what they're saying and not clarifying and just assuming this is what I think I heard you say, and really just taking a step back, the whole process, like, okay, so what I heard was, and taking that step where I just kind of like assumed and went on like a whole nother tangent, and realizing that, I mean, my agents are my customers, and the customer is, always right. So you still have to kind of take that step to listen. And I think a couple times where I've made people mistakes is not taking that extra step to say, all right, well, maybe what you're thinking and what they're saying is two different things. So just take a step back, clarify, ask the question, just be humble about it. And then, kind of go from there. So. Yeah,
that's great. Courtney, what about you?
So when I first thought about this question, I thought, well, I'm too new. I haven't made any mistakes. But now that you've said that, not that I have made any mistakes with other people yet, because it is just me. but not listening to myself. So I'm past that point now, but I was being very wishy-washy about who I wanted to coach. And then when it wasn't working out immediately, I thought, okay, maybe I just need to go back to what I know, insurance, and maybe not get out of the coaching space per se, but, start coaching insurance agents, which would have been months of retraining. And I thought, finally I just said, okay, no, trust your gut. This is what you're passionate about. So I think that would be, my main takeaway, and what I have to just try and remember consistently is trust your gut, and just go with it. This is what you're good at. It may be a little bit of a slow start. Yeah. But again, I just started in May, so.
Yeah, I think it's great.
It's you can't expect things overnight to happen, but
right.
I do love that. I love what you said about taking a step back and making sure that you are understanding what people are actually saying to you and what they're understanding, because that's big in coaching. It's like, this is what I'm hearing you say you want to work on, or this is what I'm hearing you say. Right. Making sure you have that understanding, because people's brains, work differently, and not just if they have ADHD, everybody.
Right.
So getting that clarity is so important with all relationships.
What are some misconceptions about your industry?
So I think the biggest thing is people just don't know about life coaches, especially that there are specific life coaches for people with ADHD. I know the courses that I took at the iAct Center, the woman who runs them, she started them years ago, but it's always been kind of a small school. And now, finally, I think partly because of the pandemic, it's just blown up, because a lot of people are giving themselves permission to work on their mental health, because we're all struggling right now. And a lot of people, there was a meme, and I can't remember the numbers, but it said women who took an online test to find out if they're ADHD in 2017 was like 1,100. Women who took an online test to find out if they're ADHD in 2022 was like 2,500. Wow. I mean, it's just crazy, because partly we are very underdiagnosed. We mask very well. Masking is when you realize that you're different, and so you do whatever you need to do to fit in with everybody else, which also can then cause anxiety, because you're just not able to be yourself at all. Right. So yeah, and I lost my train of thought. #ADHD.
I think, don't we all do that? Or
it's actually a diagnosis in the DSM-4. It's called Postpartum Amnesia. I've been using it for 20 years.
Yes, yeah. There's the normal rate, and then there's the ADHD rate where you're like, just, okay, bye, thought. It was nice knowing you when I had you.
Well, so do you typically do Zoom? Is that how you do that? Okay.
All online, yes. Okay. Yeah, so I'm international. So coaching, there's no regulation as far as, like, I don't have to have a license in each state. So it's all Zoom, and it's whatever country, city, state, whatever I can
Is it
work.
Typically 1 hour sessions? Is that how you do it? Okay.
Yep. So 1 hour. So I'm 1 hour a week. They can contact me throughout the week. Like if there's a quote unquote emergency, they can message me through my client management system. And, and then I offer 12 weeks or 24 weeks. And right now what I'm doing, especially because, like I said, ADHD people can tend to quickly sign up for things, or, ooh, that's going to work for me. I know this is going to fix me, which is one of the things I don't do in my coaching is we're not trying to fix you. But that's how they think. They're like, I'm going to be normal. It's like, no, honey, you don't need to be normal. You're perfect. But I do 3 weeks at a sliding scale. So essentially what you can afford for 3 weeks. And that gives people typically an understanding of if coaching is going to work for them, if that's what they thought it was going to be. And then after that, then that's when we sign up for, they decide, the 12 or 24 weeks.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah. It just gives them kind of, a better idea of what coaching is and how I can help them. And I don't want to be another app that you forget to cancel and then it just keeps renewing. Mm-hmm. And then, $500 later, it's like, oh my God, I keep forgetting to cancel this. I don't need to be that. I don't need you to sign up for the whole 12 weeks and then realize 3 weeks in, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So I like to give people that kind of trial.
Yeah, I love that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Tammy, tell me about some misconceptions or a misconception in your industry.
Well, I think one of the biggest misconceptions, I think, from a client perspective is that people like they don't want to get their finances in order. Like some people just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I've met, folks anywhere from like, this is all I have, but I got to start somewhere, to people who make six figures and say, I just never sat down and did it. They just, I do the stuff, that my employer has, but there was never a plan in place. And I think it's just some people just, it's just, they're just working kind of like just on the treadmill, just kind of just working. And they've never stopped to say, I really need to put a plan in place. And I think, especially like our Gen Zers, no, not Gen Zers, Gen Xers, me, we're now at a point where it's like, retirement is like in 20 years. And I never really sat down and really put a plan in place. Yeah. I just been kind of winging it the whole time. So, and then I think the other misconception is like these younger folks, I do call them kind of the juice box generation. They want instant gratification. But there are a handful out there that are just like, look, I ain't trying to do like, my mom and my dad did. I got to do something different or I'm going to be stuck in this, in this cycle. So I think there's more of that now in pockets than ever before.
Okay. Do you have a message that is for women specifically?
Yes. Yes. Can you tell?
I can.
Big deep breath. Let's go.
And here's why. Can I take a second to say why?
Oh, you absolutely can. I just think it's funny because I've read through these questions and I'm like, we're answering them naturally. Like I can't even ask half of my questions because it's just automatically come out. But yes, tell us.
So I think, a couple reasons why is number one, just through my own personal experience of going through breast cancer and having options. And life is all about options. And I think the other thing is just from sitting, from on the financial part of it, is seeing women. Like I met a lady who had been married for years, over 20 years, and her husband dies, and there's not enough life insurance. So now she has to sell the house. She had an estate sale, and she lives with her son in his basement because there wasn't enough, and I just never thought to have the conversation. And not saying that, that's just, her husband they just never had the conversation, and she thought that everything would be okay. So I'm a little different when I talk to couples. I always ask the wife, I said, he dies, what happens to you? And lay it out, tell me step by step. And a lot of women don't know, and vice versa, because I've seen the wife die and the husband have to figure it out, where they had to get a nanny and had to have somebody come in. Like those little things people don't think about. So my message for women is if you're married or not married, if you're a single mom, a stay-at-home mom, if you don't have a husband or a kid, what is the plan? And if somebody said go, can you recite the plan? Like for me, I shared, because of this experience, one of the things that we did is I was like, okay, well, this is real. So we really got to put a better plan in place. I told my husband, something happens to me, here, the 5 accounts, and here's where all the money needs to go. Nobody wants to talk about that. But now there's a ease. Like if something still happens, because something is going to happen one day. I mean, it's like, I don't know why people don't realize you are going to die one day. So you just have
We don't want to think about it.
We don't want to think about it. But the thing is that wealthy people think about it. That's part of the plan. Like, and that's why they have generational wealth, because it's part of the plan. So, even like talking to Taylor, our oldest, now that she's 20, I'm like, okay, so we need to redo our will because you're 20 and you kind of know our business. And so putting those plans in place, because once you do it, then you don't have to do it again, and you can rest easy at night, and you can really, really enjoy life and not be the wife that I met whose husband is no longer here. So she can't even grieve because, the house that she's been in for years, she can no longer be in. So
that makes me sad.
I know, yeah. Me too. And I hear it more so, than not. I mean, and then there was another case where the wife she stayed at home with the kids. Husband was in corporate. And these aren't any FYI, these are none of my clients. These are just stories that kind of, brought more passion. And he's on his motorcycle and he dies. And he's making, good income because she stayed at home, but they were like living in a $500,000 house. All that gone because it just wasn't enough to plan for it.
Wow.
So it's just whatever the plan is, put the plan in place. And on the good side and for retirement, unless you plan on working, like you know how you see, well, I don't know, but like if you go to Walmart, like it just burns me, and it makes me sad when I see older women working.
Yeah.
Like over 70, still working.
Yeah.
Right. So like that shouldn't.
Yeah. Have the uncomfortable conversations.
That's me. I love to have those conversations with people.
Oh, I love to get awkward, but
yeah, because, it just makes people just start think like, oh my gosh. And that's what, struck me as I was like, yeah, I was making great money in corporate, but I didn't have a plan. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, Courtney, is there specifically for women, is there a message that you have for that?
Yeah, definitely. Go for your dreams. So, I spent probably too many months trying to get back in the industry that I had been in, that I knew. And then I finally decided to actually just forget it, go for it. And I'm a single mom, and it's a big risk to decide I'm going to work for myself. This is my business, this is my company. I know I can do this, but I also have days where I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? This is terrible. But I just keep going. And then the other thing really is take up space. We shrink ourselves, which causes anxiety. And we just need to stop. We need to stop shrinking ourselves to make other people comfortable.
Yeah.
I still do it to an extent. I catch myself, but it's a hard habit to break.
Yeah.
And especially women with ADHD, even if they don't know it, they are much more susceptible to doing that because we're so often told that we're wrong. We're doing it wrong. You're not being ladylike. Because especially women with ADHD, we have a really hard time being traditional women. We talk too much. We're too much for people. And I just would love every single woman, ADHD or not, to just get over it, as best we could, and just say, you know what, I'm going to take up all this space. And if it makes you uncomfortable, that's your problem. That's not my problem. So that's, I'm very passionate about that, clearly.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think embracing who you are is something that a lot of women struggle with. And I think that the message of you are okay, you are good enough, you are amazing the way you are is something that needs to be retrained in a lot of brains.
Yeah. And it's very, very difficult. I mean, I posted something, it was ADHD specific, but about ADHD being a superpower. Well, it's not always a superpower. Sometimes it feels like kryptonite. You're just like, I literally can't get off the couch today. That's what's going to happen today. I'm doing nothing. But to be able to find that superpower is so important. But I posted it on women's ADHD and got torn apart.
Oh, no.
Because they said, because they don't feel it. And they are not in the space right now to be able to believe it, that they can use this as their superpower.
Don't you think, though, don't both of you think, and you too, Stone, don't you all think that our superpower and our kryptonite are typically the same thing, just one of them is managed and one is unbridled?
Yes, I would agree. Yeah.
Like when you know, like if you're in an interview and somebody says, what is your weakness? Well, you're supposed to turn it around as your strength, but in reality, it's probably the same thing. Your strength and your weakness is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just one of them you've got a handle on, and then in some cases it's out of your grasp, so to speak.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like with ADHD, one of the people that people complain about is talking too much. I wish I could just shut up and stop talking, but I can't. But then you can flip it and say, I'm really easy to talk to.
Right.
And so absolutely. It can go both ways. It's just a matter of being able to get to that mindset of, yes, this is a positive thing and I'm going to use it as such. And not everybody can get there. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, I love that it's your life's mission to ensure that as many people get there as possible.
Yes.
Yeah. Courtney, how can people get in touch with you? Give us all of your things.
Yes.
Well, I know you've done it already, but we're going to have it right here, packed in at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram is ADHDparent86. My website is ADHD-parent.com or CourtneySchutter.com.
Spell it.
CourtneySchutter.com.
Awesome.
Yes.
And Tammy, tell people how to get in touch with you.
Yes. So I guess because of my business, and the brokerage, it's really just my personal. So, on Instagram is probably the easiest way. It's Tammy GG Lewis. So it's nothing like, fancy because of that. But, as far as like the, Pink Pearl Hero on Facebook and Instagram, it is Pink Pearl Hero all together. And for the planner, it's One Dope Planner. So it's the number 1, DOPE. So P like Paul, E Planner. And that's on Facebook and Instagram, and now on TikTok. I wish I could that's why we're hiring other people to do it. And when you said that about the kryptonite, I think my girlfriend and I, she's an entrepreneur as well, and we both figured it out. We're professional extroverts, but we're personal introverts.
Yes.
Because I'm really an introvert, and people are like, no way. I'm like, yes.
I'm going to go home and take a nap because all of this talking. Like, for real.
I'm just like, can I go back to the beach? That's all I really want to do.
So Tammy Lewis is with a Y and an EW.
EW. Yes.
Okay.
I was going to say Tammy Lewis from St. Louis.
Like, I knew that, but I wanted to make sure others could find you.
And then 1 is the number one.
The number 1.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Any last minute amazingness?
I think this is amazing.
Yeah. It's fun, huh?
I've seen, personally, I've seen a shift in the U.S. with women, and I was seeing it, but now it's kind of like, I am woman, hear me roar. And then when the pandemic happened, I think a lot of women actually pivoted, and they were just like, you know what? This, baby that I had on the shelf, or this feeling I had inside, dang it, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it guns a-blazing. And I think we're seeing a lot of that now. So if there's women listening, if you got that urge, literally just do it, because the world is waiting on you. Definitely.
The world needs you.
And the world needs you for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to be heard. And like I said, we need to take up more space for sure.
For sure. Awesome. Well, remember, if you already know everything, then you are sure to learn nothing. Exactly. Lori Kennedy signing off.